just a couple bad weather fans representing New York, talking all things sports. Man, what could go wrong? We got Alex, who's a fan of the Knicks, and Mike of the Nets. The yin-yang of the tri-state, place your bets on the Yankees, Giants, Mets, or Jets. Yeah, you should listen if it's sparking your interest. If you made a vow to your team, don't break it. Bad weather fans is the relation.
Right, this is Bad Weather Fans, episode number 67. Mike Biseglia, Alex Benesowitz. We've got a lot to get into tonight as the Brooklyn Nets take care of the Milwaukee Bucks. They're up 2-0 in their series. And the New York Knicks, they have a head coach that's the coach of the year in Tom Thibodeau. Thank you guys for listening and subscribing and downloading this podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, we'll appreciate that too. If not, go ahead, check it out. Bad Weather Fans on YouTube. You can get the video version. And if you are listening or watching this podcast right now, which obviously you are because we're talking, Alex, you hear that awesome beat in the background as Bad Weather Fans now has its own theme music to bring us in and out of the podcast. Awesome shit right there.
Right. And Eddie, your boy Eddie can sleep at night now that we have an intro. But Snottaynose and my boy Kenny, he's he put this together for us in about an hour this morning. We reconnected on Facebook. His old friend of mine, used to work together at a camp back in the day at Silver Point in Atlantic Beach, New York, on Long Island, and he's a good friend of mine. We lost touch, but we're kind of reconnecting now. So he's up and coming hip hop artist, and he's performing August 29th, and he's opening for Rakim and Capadonna at the Klein Memorial Theater in Bridgeport, Connecticut. It's sponsored by Tour for Life and CT Mental Health. Check out Snottynose's album out called Uno on Spotify. That's UNO, and Snottaynose is spelled SNOTTAYNOSE. You can also find Kenny, all of his music out on Instagram. He's at Kenny Trune Music. That's TRUHN. Kenny is my boy. Snottaynose, he is the man. That was awesome. Awesome.
I'm glad we could have it. And it's funny because, people were giving us shit. A lot of people were giving us shit. Like, you don't have an open. And I always said this, and I preached this, and we talked about this in our pre-production meeting that we took care of earlier in the week, which was a very great meeting. Good meeting.
Yeah.
And I always said, like, I am a believer and we have to have an open, but I don't think you should just have an open to have an open. And it's all about the content, and it's all about what we're talking about and what we're producing on, I would say, on the court, on the podcast. But this to me was just perfect. The sound is right. It's snappy, it's fast, and we're right into the action. So I love it, and super appreciative of hearing it. So it's good shit right there. I'm excited.
Yeah, no, it was awesome, and it was done so fast. That was what was awesome. Ken, he's so talented. You know, he can sing, he does rock music, and he can rap. He does everything. He's up and coming. He's a musician. He's really doing a great job out there. And to open for somebody like Rakim, Capadonna is one thing for Wu-Tang, but to open for somebody like Rakim is just like legendary status right there. Like it's just incredible. Rakim is a legend, and it's just I'm jealous, and I might have to swing through for this concert on August 29th. In Connecticut. It might have to happen.
You know what they say, Alex? It's podcast stars want to be rap stars, and rap stars want to be podcast stars. I hear that all the time. And let's jump into the Brooklyn Nets game from yesterday. We will talk about the New York Knicks and Tom Thibodeau winning coach of the year, because you had an interesting thought on that. But let's lead with the Brooklyn Nets here, who just dismantled the Bucks. I mean, they just absolutely crushed them. At one point, they were up 49 points, and this game was never really close.
With no Harden.
It was 8-7. Yeah, no James Harden, by the way, who is out as we're monitoring his hamstring. We'll see what happens. But the Nets absolutely just destroyed the Milwaukee Bucks. And you know me, I'm watching this game. I'm one of these fans that can never get comfortable. Get comfortable. Like in the second half, when they got it to 20 at one point, my brain is going through all of these different ideas. But I mean, the Nets just absolutely destroyed them, and Kevin Durant was on display as top 2, top 1 players in the NBA, and it was fucking fun to watch him and be like, oh my God, this guy's on my team, and he is unstoppable. It was truly awesome. I loved it.
No, it was. I mean, he looks incredible. I mean, He didn't play a lot this season, so he's super fresh too. But he's getting over an injury, so that's okay. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like he was just resting to rest all season, like a Kawhi or something like that. So you kind of give him a break there. I mean, the story though of this game was Blake Griffin, man, and like it just like these tip dunks, this dunk down the sideline, like where did this come from?
Moved Giannis out of the way.
Giannis is ducking out of the way. Like, where did this come from? Like, how does this just happen all of a sudden? And it's just crazy. It's almost like he faked his injury in Detroit or embellished it a little more just to get the hell out of there. Be like, I'm done. I can't do this. And maybe fans are right saying that it's not fair that the Nets got Blake Griffin. Remember, Blake was like, well, all I've been hearing is that I suck for the last 3 years. And now, we talked about it on the podcast. So
yeah, no, it's true. I mean, he was bad in the Boston series, but he's been fantastic in the first 2 games versus the Milwaukee Bucks. He's been good. But hey, I know people make fun of the Nets all the time for their performance staff and everything that's wrapped around it.
Yeah.
But when they're like, oh, they're ramping up Blake Griffin. They're ramping up Blake Griffin. Oh, the Nets, they're ramping up. Well, you know what? They ramped him up, and now they're letting him loose, and now everybody's complaining that he was ramped up. And he's playing great, and they handled everything perfectly with Blake. And also, I want to remember this narrative. If the Nets get Kevin Durant and he's at 80%, I think that'll be good. I mean, I don't think he'll be an 100% Kevin Durant, but if we get an 80% Kevin Durant, I mean, we'll see what happens. He's 110% Kevin Durant now. And to your point earlier before, people giving the Nets shit, oh, so bad for basketball. Kevin Durant's resting on a back-to-back. Yeah, so he can play 42 minutes in the game versus the Bucks where it matters. Here's a quiz for everybody listening. Do you remember the games that Kevin Durant sat out on a back-to-back? Did it really matter? Was it that big of a deal that you didn't see him against the Orlando Magic on a Thursday night? Are you that disappointed? You know why he didn't play on a Thursday night in a back-to-back against the Orlando Magic? So he could put Giannis Antetokounmpo in the embarrassment mode, cross him over, score in his face, and say, F you, we're up 2-0 going to Milwaukee. It's big picture shit. So people have to remember all that complaining that they did was for this moment, because I've heard it from Knicks fans. I'm very proud of my star player. He played in 71 of 72 games. Well, guess what? He didn't play in the playoffs. And Kevin Durant, he's showing up. I'm a little fired up about this one, Alex, and I'm really proud of this organization. It's only 2 wins. Got to keep it rolling. Can't let your foot off the gas pedal, as they say. But that's why they did all of this stuff. It's for these moments, so then people can complain about how unfair it is that the Nets are this good.
Hey, listen, you nailed it. I mean, and this game 2 win was almost like 2 wins because Harden was out. So you figure the first game that they win, Harden goes out in the beginning of the game. You think like, all right, it's pure adrenaline. They were able to get through this one without Harden, and they still, it was kind of close most of the game, and then this game 2, and Blake does it again. And it's just like, that's got to be a mental F for the Bucks, man. They got to be like, what the hell did we just run into? Like you say it all the time, though, when a team goes home, the reserves play a little better because they're more comfortable. They're getting that home cooking, So, but at the same time, man, the Nets look unstoppable. They look like they've just been they didn't care and the whole season, because they didn't, but they still got the 2 seed, which is just sick to think about. So you say it doesn't matter in the regular season, and it doesn't really matter, but it kind of does for like a different aspect, not about the wins and losses of the championship. It's about like fans who, little Timmy and his dad show up for a game 42 in the regular season, and it's the middle of the week. It's the only game they can afford. And Kevin Durant has a headache and he's not playing that game. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not saying Kevin Durant did that on purpose, but I'm just giving you an example. That's the kind of thing where people get upset about it. That's just the other side of the coin.
Totally understand. And I totally get that point. And I really feel like, I'm sorry, Tim. Like, I apologize that you and your dad worked that hard, but as like from my end, and I'll be selfish as a lifelong Nets fan that's rooting for a championship, as upsetting as it is, and it's bad for the league. Yeah, that's a bad thing for the league to see that, because it's bad for its overall product and making money and getting fans, etc. Yes, you're right. But from my end, I don't care. I don't care about Adam Silver's problems. I care about my problems. And I'll just be blunt with you there. I don't care that Adam Silver has an issue on back-to-backs that he's losing revenue because Tim and his dad now have decided that they're going to be New Jersey Devil fans. I don't care about that. I want to see them win a championship. And quite frankly, from my end, on a business side, that's my business decision. And that's Adam Silver's problem, not mine.
Right. And it's funny. No, it's true. It's true. Absolutely true. And like I said, the mental thing of game 2, the Bucks are toast. They just look like they can get swept. I mean, I know you don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, and your favorite quote of the series doesn't start until the home team loses. It's kind of stupid, but it kind of does feel like this one could be close to over. I mean, the Bucks need to show up early, because if they get punched in the mouth in this first quarter of game 3, they might just fold completely. They're kind of like a deer in the headlights. That was actually Snottaynose's joke. He told me earlier. I told him say it on the podcast. Right. They really did look like a deer in the headlights. The Bucks. So it's just kind of it's kind of funny how nobody wanted to give the Nets credit all year. Once they got Harden, I was like, this is over. But this is even without Harden, and this is just shocking. It's shocking to me because. Kevin Durant, nobody thought Kevin Durant, well, nobody, some people did. I didn't think he would be this, coming off Achilles injury, because it never happened before. It was this one Dominique Wilkins, the exception to the rule. You have an Achilles injury and you don't play. I mean, he didn't play most of the season. So am I really wrong? But you know what I mean? Like, he didn't need to. So it wasn't like, he's played how many games in 2 years. So is it really, but he's showing up when it matters the most. And we'll see how he is over the next years and whatever. And he might, take a turn for the worse, but who cares? For you right now, you want this title this year, and you're probably going to get it at this point. I mean, who is the biggest? The East looks open right now with Embiid hurt. I know they're beating the Hawks right now. You said so. Yeah. I mean, we don't know what the game is right now. It's like 9. It's like 10 o'clock right now. So it's all good. So then that whole narrative that look what the Hawks did to the Sixers, that makes me feel better about the Knicks is totally out the window. Give me a break. So that's for later in the podcast. But it also, to defend the Nets a little bit, which is not something I like to do, as the super team thing that's ruining the league. This is not good for the NBA. They're up 40. Okay. So, what are they supposed to do? Not be up 40?
Right.
You know what I mean? And the entire league's existence since the 40s, right? It was the 40s, right? When the NBA started somewhere around, whatever it was. So the entire league's existence, there have been super teams, whether it was the Minneapolis Lakers to the Celtics, to the Lakers, to the whoever, Bulls, Heat, Cat, help me out here. You know what I'm saying? There were so many teams over the years, so many super teams, that it's always been the big bad super team against the league. And then you get those rogue titles like the Knicks in the 70s. You get the Sixers in the 80s. Pistons. You get a Sonics title here and there. You get the Pistons. You get a Mavericks title. You know what I mean? Like, there's these here and there. But generally, it's the same 10 teams that win in this league. So, and the league is stronger than it's ever been. So don't give me that the super teams are rooting the league. It's just the Nets' turn to have the super team, and you're lucky that you got that turn in your lifetime. That's
I would even see, this is where the super team argument gets strange for me, because this is the first true super team, if you want to say, that I've watched every single game, because I'm not watching every Miami Heat game, or I wasn't watching. Right, I wasn't watching all these teams before, the Bulls, Jordan, different world, whatever. But I even look at this roster and I'm like, okay, this is a super team, but Harden's hurt. Okay, and they went and they did what they did to Milwaukee. Like, are we all of a sudden saying Joe Harris is? I like Joe, but is he that good? Okay. The Nets, when they dealt Harden, they don't have Allen, they don't have LeVert anymore. They've got this guy in Jeff Green that's come out of nowhere that's starting to play better. They've got a guy in Mike James that was signed a month ago that's giving them super minutes and playing really valuable for them. Landry Shamet, a bench player, came into the game and hit a couple of threes. I mean, I understand the idea of a super team, but they're built because they're a true team. They're cooking the last 2 games because they played like a team. As well as Durant was, he makes things easier for other people. Kyrie makes things easier for other people, but they're playing like a true team and winning games. That's why they're doing so well in these games versus the Bucks. And the other thing is they're playing defense. Everybody giving the Nets shit for all the bad defense they didn't play throughout the year. They've revved up their energy, and they have been ferocious with the defensive side of things. I can't even look at the Nets like a super team because of how well they've played and how well the role guys have been. You talked about they were a 2 seed with all the injuries they had to Harden, Durant, Kyrie missing games or whatnot. It was because this team is cohesive and has done a good job with all the changing parts. And I'm going to do something here that's going to really bother people, because I won't stop. I'm going to say something here that's going to really bother people. Steve Nash has done a good job.
Yeah, I mean, that is going to bother people. but he's done a good job. I mean, look at he's kept them together. I mean, it's definitely easier to coach guys like Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving when they're all buying in, and they all are buying in with or without you because they want to win and they want this to happen. You know what I mean? It's a lot hard. You know, it is. I mean, it's a lot easier to coach a Nets team with that kind of talent.
Look at Steve Kerr.
With superstars that are buying in. I mean, they picked him. They picked him to be the coach. So, you know, it's easier to do with that than it is what Thibs did with the Knicks. I'll put it like that way. Where
100%. 100%.
You know, that's all I'm saying. Yeah. That's where 100%. People get bent out of shape by that. Like, you know what I mean? Like Steve Kerr is out due to health reasons with the Warriors super team, which I forgot to mention as well, another super team. And Luke Walton comes in and basically goes undefeated in like 30 games. Mm-hmm. And you're like, wow, Luke Walton's a great coach. And then you're like, wait, how great is Steve Kerr? And then Luke Walton's gone and he goes to the Kings and he's terrible. Like, you know what I mean? It's just what it's all about. It's a give or take. There's no
I agree. I agree completely. Argument. I agree completely, but there has to be some level of, hey, he's done a nice job. You can't just completely disregard it because of all the injuries, because of all the turmoil, because of all the changes that have occurred with this roster. And then to get them this cohesive and this in sync this late in the playoffs. I mean, all we heard about was how good Coach Bud is, and he has been a disaster. And the one biggest regard for Milwaukee, they don't show life. They don't show energy. That's the shocking thing to me with the Bucks is they don't show any life at all. Like they even want to be out there on the court. And maybe it was because the Nets just punched them in the face so hard. They weren't used to it, but it's been a little surprising on that front is just how putrid Milwaukee has been. And I'm such a pessimist here, Alex. I expect to see a much different Milwaukee team in Game 3. I can't imagine that they come out here that
be close.
Flat. It has to be. They have to be better. They have to be better.
They're too good to get blown out like that twice in a row. I mean, this isn't like the Knicks and the Hawks where you're like, oh, the Knicks will show up, and they don't. This is like the Bucks are a legit title contending team this whole season. You know, they're definitely going to make it close. And if the Nets, it'll be close in the fourth quarter, down to the last minute or two. You know what I mean? Big shots will be made by either team to win the game. And if the Nets can pull that out, then it's over. Usually it's 3-0 is usually over, but the way like I said before, the Bucks just mentally, that's gotta be like, I don't care how tough you are mentally, that's gotta kill you. You know what I mean? Harden's out. You're like, oh my God, we have a window. All right, we lost game 1. We have a window, and then you're down by like 100 points in this game too. It's crazy, dude. It's just absolutely crazy. I mean, the Nets are just that good. I mean, and you're right because the Nets do have a lot of good players around them. They're not just LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, and then you have Joel Anthony and Norris Cole. Like, you know what I mean? You have Joe Harris, you have Claxton, you have all these guys, and DeAndre Jordan can't even crack the rotation. You know what I mean? It's just crazy. It really is, and it's scary, and it's something that I'm not really enjoying. Like, I'll be honest, it's just something like I'm not really enjoying the Nets winning at this clip. You know what I mean? I would like some resistance.
I appreciate your honesty there because I get really annoyed at people that are clearly not into the Nets and clearly that they don't like that they're winning, but what they're doing is they're pretending they don't exist.
Oh yeah,
the new thing to do now. Like, this is boring. They're supposed to win. Whatever. That's the new mode now from people that want to put down the Nets and shame the Nets, and that's getting on my nerves a lot. And I'll be honest, I've been sensitive about that. There's been people, and it's really pissed me off. It's annoying me. I know some, people have been like, "Oh, Mike, just enjoy the moment. This is your team." I'm like, "Yeah, I am." But it would be nice if there was some deeper level of concentration and understanding that they're playing well and not just disregard it and pretend like it's not existing. And that just kind of got on my nerves. Mm-hmm. Maybe something I'll be less sensitive to. And obviously, it's about what they do against the Milwaukee Bucks, but. Yeah, it just pissed me off. The people want to just disregard. Hey, the Nets. They were supposed to win. They're a super team. Whatever. It's a big deal. They're ruining the NBA.
Ruining the NBA. God. It's just when people say they're ruining the NBA. Like I said, like my rant earlier. If the people are saying they're ruining the NBA, they don't understand anything about the history of the NBA. It's always been super teams. Even before the salary cap, it's always been super teams. Like look at those Lakers teams in the 70s. You know what I mean? Where they won a billion games in a row. Right. It's just is what it is. These guys and the Celtics won like 8 championships in a row. You know what I mean? And it's give me a break, man. It just is what it is. I mean, I hate defending the Nets, but I just defend the truth. Is just how I do. So that's
I appreciate that, Alex. And this is the big point with the Nets and how they got the 3 stars. And it's just this irritates me when people are like, oh, they bought a championship. They bought 3 guys. what they were able to do from being in the rubble and to get themselves to an established point where Kyrie and Durant wanted to come to them says a lot about how the organization grew. And the other part that's key for them is that they were able to sign Kyrie and Durant without giving up all of their leverage. Like the Lakers have LeBron and AD, they have nothing else to give up. They're done. The Clippers have Kawhi and George. They have no picks. They're screwed. The Nets kept all their picks. They kept all of their assets, and they were able to make a move with Allen and LeVert, which, by the way, was pretty cool how they ended up with those guys. And with that, they were able to get James Harden. It wasn't that they just bought it. If they didn't have assets, they wouldn't have been able to make this trade. But Sean Marks was so good in his ability to keep those guys around that he could pull the trigger and make this even possible. So don't say this is the Nets buying a championship. And if people, first of all, they haven't even won. I hate even saying that, but
they're not there yet, man. Yeah.
I'll pose this to any Knicks fan that says, "Hey, the Nets are buying a championship." Which baseball team do you root for? And if it's the Yankees, do you care how they get there? Do you care if they win a title? And are you upset when they won titles because they spent money on free agency? I don't think it's apples to apples, but I'll pose that question. If you're a Knicks fan and a Yankee fan, do you care when they win a title, or are you happy the Yankees won?
Well, the Yankees don't win championships anymore. We'll put it that way. They won one title in this century, so we'll put it that way. So they can buy regular season wins, but they're not winning championships. But I get your point. It just is what it is. Like if you add stars, you're going to win, and regardless of the sport. Like for your Lakers example with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, well, backtrack. Also, the Mets are also trying to buy a championship too. Like, look what they did with Lindor and the money they paid him. But anyway, fast forward back to where I was. The Lakers, they traded for Anthony Davis. Can you imagine if they were able to just sign Anthony Davis without trading for him, and they kept Brandon Ingram and Julius Randle on that team, and then you get LeBron somehow, and then who takes a discount, and you have LeBron, Ingram, Randle, and Anthony Davis? That's like a ridiculous team, you know.
That's what the Nets basically
and
did.
Kuzma,
And
it doesn't matter.
That's what the Nets basically did.
Exactly.
And then it would be like if the Lakers packaged Ingram, Kuzma,
and
Randle, and they flipped that for Dame Lillard. That's
right.
What they did.
Exactly.
That's exactly what they did. But Marks was able to keep that leverage. That's the difference. Thank you. Mm-hmm. That's such a damn good point. You're making me happy there.
There you go. See, man, we're on the same. I defend the truth, man. I don't like it. I don't like what I'm watching. It pains me to watch the Nets. Like game 2, I was watching, and I was kind of getting annoyed watching it. But I got through it, and it's just something. It's not enjoyable. I need some resistance. Give me some hope. Give me something where I'm just gonna be like, all right, this might not work out. Kind of a thing. So. But anyway, what can you do?
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see what happens in game 3. I think it'll be very different. Go to Milwaukee. We'll see how they respond. We'll see, we'll see if James Harden's back in this series and where he is progressing with this hamstring injury. And we'll see if Jeff Green comes back, which would be a good lift for the Nets.
But
and you're right. Good to have him.
And you're right before. I didn't mean to stomp on your point with the Yankees don't win championships, which they don't. That you don't care if you're as a fan, you don't care how they win. Just win. Just get the job done. You don't care. Like Pat Riley's selling point to LeBron when he got LeBron to Miami was, who cares if they hate? All people remember are the rings. Remember the legendary story where he threw the rings on the table? He's like, look at my rings. You want those? Come here and I'll show you how to do it. And he did. And it is what it is. Nobody remembers that Kevin Durant went to the Warriors when they won 73 games. Nobody remembers that LeBron and Wade and Bosh had a super team. They just remember the titles in 10, 20 years. And that's it,
And I know there's been the earlier in the week or last week at this point, there were Damian Lillard rumors about the Knicks. And let me ask this question. Kind of, we'll use this as a way to tie over to New York.
Yep.
Let's say that the Knicks were able to get Damian Lillard and they were able to deal, and obviously they're going to have to give up a lot to get him. And then Kawhi Leonard opted out of the Clippers and said, you know what? I want to go to the Knicks for whatever reason. I don't think this is happening, but who knows?
Hypothetical.
And Kawhi and Lillard were like, we want to be Knicks. And then they came to New York. I guess all the people that say, I want to do it the right way. I want to build the youth. I want to see Quickly get better. I want to see RJ Barrett develop. Are you telling me you wouldn't want Lillard and Kawhi Leonard together? And all of a sudden, I would say Lillard and Kawhi and build around that. That's a title team.
Of course I would do that. I would want to keep RJ Barrett at all costs because that's the guy that we got. But it would probably, if you're trading for Dame, you probably have to give him up, which is why it's probably not likely. But then again, NBA trades, if a superstar wants a team, they're going to get there. Like, look at Harden. I'm like, there's no way the Nets can get Harden without giving up Kyrie. And look what happened. You know what I mean? So it's just, you never know. I mean, it's just one of those situations where I don't think getting Lillard is the wrong move, but you have to see the deal. You know what I mean? And I don't want to make a trade for Lillard hoping we can get Kawhi. You get Kawhi and then you go get Lillard. Like, you know what I mean? It doesn't go the other way. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you're not at a position of strength. You know what I'm saying?
What I'm saying is, you would take those two guys on your team and say, build around that, and we'll go from there.
Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. That's it. You know what I mean? I would like to keep Randall and RJ, especially, and the rest of the team. Goodbye. But I don't know if that's enough. But if it is, then sure. But the things that bother me about the Dame Lillard talk is that people who are saying, you have to move heaven and earth to get Dame Lillard. He's the guy. Teams love star. I'm like, give me a break. This is like Melo all over again. I mean, but Melo was better than Lillard at the time that the Knicks got Melo. Melo was a legit top 5 player in the NBA when the Knicks traded for him. Yes, they gave up too many picks in the future, but I wasn't crying over Mozgov and Gallinari and Wilson Chandler and Raymond. You know what I mean? Who cares? You know what I mean? It was the picks in the future. Yeah.
Crying over Gallinari last week.
I was, but remember at the end of when the melodrama was going on, the whole melodrama, they were like, why are we giving up Mozgov? It's just like, are you sure we want to throw Mozgov in this trade? Like, give me a break, but it's also hard to say no to a Lillard deal. Like, are you for Lillard? You're not for Lillard. It's like, sure, I'm for Lillard, but at what cost? Like, am I for Lillard trading the entire team, gutting the roster, giving up all our picks for Lillard? Then what are you? Then you're Lillard and Taj Gibson, and you're just like, okay, there we are. Like, what are we doing here? Maybe we'll take on Enes Kanter back. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we doing? It's just then that's a typical James Dolan move. It just is what it is. I don't know. I'd rather see them, if Chris Paul opts out, I'd rather see them take him. I know he's old, but it's just money. If you can get him for like 2-3 years, just do it. And he'll help out Obi and Mitch, like we said last offseason, how like those guys need point guards. And it shows because there's so many times you see it when you watch enough games. You see Obi running down the side like, yo, it's like, yo, I'm open. Like, yo, throw it. Somebody, please. Like, Chris Paul's not missing that. He's not missing those plays. You know what I'm saying? So it just is what it is. I don't know. It's kind of like where I wanted Westbrook, where it was just money. I just wanted him on a salary dump deal because you know what? Westbrook would have been better than Alfred Payton. Like, you know what I mean? We would have been better off with Westbrook there. I know you don't agree, but it just is what it is. You happy with Payton? You happy with Frank Ntilikina? You happy with all these guys that are going to get cooked in the playoffs? You know what I mean? It's just weird. It's just a weird situation that we're in right now with the Knicks, where they have all this cap space and they're hoarding it. And fans are okay with this hoarding of the cap space, where it's just like, we can't spend the money. We can't spend the freaking money. You can always trade these guys. Don't spend it all. Keep your flexibility. Don't spend it Don't give out $150 million contract to average players like Harrison Barnes or something. But sign guys for 2-3 years, and then you can flip them. You can flip them in a salary match deal. I don't know. That's my long-winded answer.
I've always talked about the signing of contracts and the flipping idea. And you always give me shit for it because you're like, oh, you're condescending that fan and you're flipping a bad contract or whatever for picks. What did you make of the idea of John Wall as a Knick?
Ugh. No thanks.
No thanks.
No thanks. No. That's not how I want to use my cap. I want to sign legit players. Like last offseason, I wanted to sign Bogdanovich. I wanted to sign Gallinari. I wanted to sign DJ Augustin. I mean, that was wrong about Augustin because he had a terrible season, and he already ended up getting traded or something mid-year. But I wanted like legit NBA players, like tier 2 or 3 or 4, that guys that could show up on your roster, like a Nerlens Noel, where I was happy about, and Austin Rivers, I was happy about. Guys like that can show up, that are NBA vets that know how to play ball, and that are not going to be like a deer in the headlights, and they're going to play. I don't want to take on, John Wall, and so I can get a first-round pick in 2027. Like, no, man. Like, I'm good on that. Like, we're not at that point. We're not winning 10 games a year. We're just trying to collect assets. We should be at the point where we're ready to attack. Like, you don't have to go all in because you don't have that star like a Harden and Kyrie, or even a Dame Lillard already under contract. But you gotta do something. You gotta make the team better. You can make the team better in the short term by also keeping your long-term flexibility.
I
And
love
saying that, that's it.
I love Chris Paul. I think him on the. I mean, he's in
Yeah.
this. He's in a stretch now. He's trying to win an NBA championship with the Phoenix Suns, and the incredible job that Phoenix is doing out west. I love Chris Paul, and I think
Mhm.
I would say I put him on the Knicks. I think they're a top 4 team in the East. I mean, they technically they
Already
were a
were.
top, regular season top 4 team in the
Yeah.
East, but I guess a true top 4. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I think it makes them so much better, and that when they go, I think Chris Paul, if he's on the Knicks, they go against the Atlanta Hawks. That's not a 5-game series. Like, that's a series. I think
Yeah.
he's that good, and everywhere this guy goes, the team wins games. He almost got if he's not hurt, are the Rockets in the NBA Finals. He took a Thunder team that was there are nobodies, and they were in 48, 49 games. And now he goes to Phoenix and the Suns, who were a budding good team, which he recognized, from the bubble the year before and how well they were playing at the bubble. He goes there, and now they're a title contender in a wide open Western Conference. If you can get a Chris Paul, I think you have to do it without giving up your young core and
Right.
your
If he
foundation.
opts
I think
out.
it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Easy. And he can, if you bring Chris Paul in, do you bring back Derrick Rose? I think you do anyway, because he can be a backup, and then you have the 3-headed monster of him, Quickly, and Rose, Paul, Quickly, and Rose. What do you think about that? I know you kind of have to bring Rose back at this point after this playoffs, but what do you think?
If you had Chris Paul, yeah, I mean, if you
A
could
lot of
afford
old
it, I
guys.
think you do it, because I mean, there'd no more Payton, no more Ntilikina, and that's your 3 guards in that sense. Yeah, I think absolutely you do it. I'd be curious, what kind of compensation Derrick Rose is going to get this offseason. And if you tell me if he wants to come back to New York and spend more years there because of how well he did with Thibodeau and everything on that side. Obviously, they have unbelievable chemistry. He just ran out of gas there at the end because he was trying to carry the Knicks too much. But I'm curious if he signs a lucrative deal somewhere where he could help if he wants to go win a championship type of thing. Like Derrick Rose on the Lakers would probably be, a very helpful piece for them. Derrick Rose on the Clippers, a Derrick Rose on some of these on the 76ers, giving some balance with the Ben Simmons type playoff problems that we'll see what happens this season if they go to the finals or whatever. But I wonder if Derrick Rose wants to take that angle where he could go to a team and help them get to the championship and play 15 to 20 minutes of valuable minutes, maybe some crunch time minutes, or if he wants to stay with the Knicks. I'll kind of be curious to see what happens.
Yeah, I think he's kind of built a little differently than these guys, where just like the ring chaser kind of guys who are just trying to get on a team and win a championship. I don't think he's that kind of guy. I think he loves playing with Thibs. He's comfortable. He's been in New York now. This is his second stint. He knew what to expect this time around. He wasn't taken off guard. He knows what his game is. It's clearly a different player than he was the last time around. The last time around where he was going AWOL, he had the pending case that he had to go to trial in the middle of the season for, where he was acquitted of. And it's just, there's so many things that were on his plate then, it was hard for me to recognize then because I was just so angry with the way he was playing. But you see him now where he's grown up a lot more. He realized where he is in his career. He understands what he is. He understands what his role is. He understands his game. He changed his game completely. And I can't see him leaving Thibs, where Thibs knows where to put him and knows how to get the best out of him. And he's a mentor to these guys. And it looks like he chose to come here. I mean, Detroit traded him, but he obviously said, "Hey, I want to go here. Right. Can you get me here?" And the Knicks made an offer. You know what I'm saying? So which was a steal. Completely. Can you believe that? Yeah. And I guess the Knicks can sign Dennis Smith Jr. this offseason if they really wanted to. They can get him back. That'd be great. I'm just kidding.
Let's. I know I do want to talk about the Thibs Coach of the Year stuff, but this has to be brought up because he was just terrible. Porzingis in the playoffs was a disaster. I mean, he was bad, and he has become now an untradeable contract. He's become an untradeable contract where
you don't say
he is. You don't trade him. That kind of production for that kind of money, and even beyond the poor play on the court. You just get the sense that he's not loved in that locker room, and the Mark Cuban comments about him and Luka certainly make a big part of that. And the way Luka is a ball dominant guy, you can tell there's something there, and those two probably don't love each other and like each other as teammates and don't have the chemistry that they need. But he has become an albatross, an untradeable deal, and the Mavs for as good of a position as they are, because they are in a good position with Luka, and that's the big point there. They have a guy that could become one of the all-time greats, the way he's playing and how young he is, etc. But they're not going to win a championship with their current roster, and a big issue is the Porzingis contract.
Yeah, no, it's
Porzingis.
true. The Porzingis thing, and that's what the Knicks kind of did. I mean, the Knicks got killed for the trade, and people didn't see it. They just saw it in tunnel vision. They're like, "Oh, they traded Porzingis for cap space." No, it was for the draft picks as well, and to clear the cap, sure, but it's just so they can restart their organization. Because if they thought Porzingis was going to help them bring them a max player with. Because they still had a slot, to bring a max player. They wouldn't have traded him. They said, "Oh my God, Kyrie or Durant want to come and play with Porzingis. We're gonna do whatever." Yes, sure, Kristaps. Your brother can do whatever he wants. Do whatever you want. But Porzingis came in and it's like, "I just get me out of here." And they're like, "All right, you know what, man? Get this egomaniac the hell out of here. You know what I mean? Let's trade him before people know he wants to get traded and they start lowballing us. You know what I mean? People think they could have gotten more, but honestly, I don't know how much more could they have possibly gotten. They were able to dump Courtney Lee and Tim Hardaway Jr. and they were able to get two first-round draft picks. I didn't think this year the Mavericks would be this good because I didn't think that they were that deep of a team, but Luka is just that good. And honestly, I can see it. Porzingis is getting jealous of Doncic. He's probably feeling himself. He's on ESPN every day. Everybody's like, the Knicks are so stupid. Porzingis is this. Porzingis is that. Knicks fans were gassing him up when he was on the Knicks as well. And it's just, you know what? I was guilty of it too because we were just excited. Like, we were excited about the idea of him more than the player itself. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like this European, super tall, can shoot, can dribble, can do everything on the court. He can block shots. This is incredible. This is going to be the greatest player ever. And it's just like, oh, this is all right, we got on, it's just, I don't know.
I mean, I say this a little bit tongue in cheek, but I mean, it's the New York hype. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Especially with the Knicks, get caught up in that moment where everything's bigger with the Knicks, and then in realization, like, maybe he's not as good as we think, and we'll see what happens with Julius Randle from this playoffs. If some of that was the overexcitement of the Knicks fan and the fan base craving him to be great, we'll see what happens moving forward, and that's a whole separate issue and a whole separate idea to look at. But I think you're completely right. I think there's something there with him and Luka, and there's a little bit of jealousy. And it's wild too to think about. Here's a guy that in Porzingis that was a no name, nobody that nobody heard of. Of course, the famous classic moment with the kid Knick fan booing him at draft night, to then becoming.
You were right. Knicks fans were right. Draft night, by the way.
To then become this guy that's got that much of an ego is just wild to see that kind of transformation and how cocky he was and the shit talking and the back and forth on social media. And
missing the exit meeting from Phil, missing that exit meeting.
Yeah. Oh my God. But I mean, and also this is not a defense of Porzingis. I think this is just a reality. I think the injuries made him just not as good of a player too. I think they slowed him down. He's just not as good.
That's true.
He got hurt in his size and length, like lanky. He's just not as good as he was. And the more injured he gets, the quality of his play goes down, and that's hurt him also.
Yeah, two major knee injuries, more knee injuries than All-Star appearances. And it's what it is. I mean, Phil Jackson is looking like the accidental genius. On draft night, people are saying he didn't even want to draft him. But they say the story is Gaines was banging on the table like, you have to take this guy. And you kind of had to, because who were you taking? Were you taking Moutier? You know what I'm saying? Like, you had to take him. You're taking Hazonia. You know what I'm saying? So, like, you kind of had to take him and get this asset and then do what you do with him. But, like, Phil wanted to trade him for Devin Booker. And we all wanted to hang Phil Jackson out on the middle of Broadway for that. Like, are you kidding? But if we wish we would have done that. He made references to Porzingis being like Sean Bradley. And we're like, what is wrong with this guy? But he's looking like, hey, kind of like, hey, I was right. Kind of like Ben McAdoo, where he's like, we need Mahomes. And everybody's like, yeah, okay. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like that. And my thoughts right now is that I think the trade that makes the most sense in the Western Conference, which I don't know if it will happen, is the Blazers trading Dame for Porzingis and amongst other parts, and like the main source of the deals. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like the Blazers can get Porzingis and maybe somebody else and a couple. I don't even know if the Mavs have any or draft picks left to trade, but I'm just saying something around that. I don't think Blazers fans will be happy. Like, don't get me wrong, but I think I could see that, like, the Blazers like being tricked into thinking like, oh, he just needs to be the feature guy, and like, let's get Dame out of here, and then Dame and Luka would be dangerous as hell. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that'll happen, but that's.
I don't think Dallas has what it takes to pull pull that deal and get that going.
Especially in the conference too. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
I don't see that as something. I don't know. I mean, the problem is there's no trade for Damian Lillard that's going to get back of equal value or even close.
Never is.
It's got to be about, it's got to be. But then for Portland, it's a completely reset. Like, why, if you're going to trade Damian Lillard and load up on potential young players and assets, what's the point of keeping CJ McCollum around? At that point, deal him and try to move into a full rebuild mode and just get good picks. I mean, like, seriously, I don't know.
Get me CJ
McCollum alone. I mean, the Blazers aren't going to be very good. So I don't know. I don't know how how you handle that, because it's a domino effect. When Dame goes, then CJ's got to go, and they've got just to go into that total rebuild mode. Like, so it's a complete start over. I don't think he's getting traded. I think he stays. I think
he's going to pick the coach. But it is eye opening.
He always wanted to stay. He's always made the point he wants to be a Blazer. Right.
It's eye opening though that the two coaches that are rumored are Jason Kidd and Lloyd Pierce.
Well, Kidd said he didn't want the job.
And and those are like the two worst candidates you can possibly think of. And then Jason Kidd takes himself out of the running before he even interviews for the position. It's just kind of odd where it's like, do the people in the NBA circles know, or is it just being cautious? Like, I don't want to show up and get Silas over here in Portland, like what happened to him with the Rockets coach. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. I don't want to get screwed, and then it ruins my record, and it looks like I can't coach. You know what I mean? While my team just got ripped apart in the middle of the season or the first month of the season. You know what I mean? So it's something there. It could be either like people know that he's going, or that it's just being cautious. You know what I mean? Like, they're not going to really acquire a great coach or a good coach if there's no guarantees that Dame is staying. Or that they're doing something else.
No, absolutely. No, like,
I see them doing more, though. Yeah.
Lillard, if he's staying, he's going to handpick who the next guy is, and he's going to be a part of that conversation. He's going to be a part of who it is, because if he's at age 31, he's going to be the guy that he's going to want to finish his career out with, or in theory, finish his career out with. They're not going to go make a hire and nobody knows, and he has no input on it at all. Like, that is not going to be at all the way it works. It's like your lead quarterback who's going to have a lot of input on who the next head coach is, I guess, unless you're Aaron Rodgers, and then that's.
I was just going to say that.
I was, talking myself out of that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, he's going to be involved. He's going to be in on that big move,
like, so LeBron. Yeah.
Right. Like LeBron, like the David Blatt thing. I mean, and when there's like, Blatt's gone,
get this guy out of here. Yeah, exactly.
That's another example. Lou, great coach with the Cavs. Lou, bad coach with the Cavs. Lou, good coach now again, and with the Clippers.
Right. Or Doc Rivers, good coach of the year with the Magic. Celtics doesn't look so great until we got 3 Hall of Famers. How great of a coach I am again.
Ultimately,
that's it's all talent. Yeah.
But again, give some Nash some kudos, okay? Just like I'm going to give head coach Tom Thibodeau some kudos, but I had a feeling I couldn't express, and then you said it on social media, and I was like, that's what I was feeling. I was like, Coach Thibodeau won Coach of the Year, and we can get to the poll question in a second, but I want to hear your opinion on this. He won Coach of the Year, but it felt a little dead to me. And as an outside observer, it didn't have the same pizzazz because of how the Knicks went out. But then you kind of expressed that, and I'll let you take it away from here. And your feelings, Coach Tibb, obviously well-deserved. He was the Coach of the Year. I think that's clear to anybody that was keeping an eye on the NBA this year. But again, it's just something about it fell flat because of how poorly the Knicks played in the playoffs.
Right. It's kind of like in the middle of the season when Julius Randle was selected to the All-Star team. I was over the moon excited. Like, oh my, this is amazing. I can't believe he's the All-Star. Look how far he's come. This is great. He deserves it. You're on top of the world. But now it's like, if Thibs won Coach of the Year like 2 days after the season ended, while the playing tournament's going on, I would be over like, oh, this is great. Look at this. We got the Coach of the Year. This is great. But now it's like, after going out sad like that in 5 games and getting embarrassed and punked on a team that you definitely could have beaten, which now Knicks fans are like, oh, we weren't the more talented team, or they were more talented. Like, give me a break. You know what I mean? You guys, you were picking the Knicks to win in 5, most of you. Okay, so stop it with that nonsense. And not to mention last offseason when I was saying the Knicks need to add more talent, you're saying, oh, we're fine. This is okay. This team is good. We're good enough. We got to coach this. Okay, great. So anyway, it did take a little bit of sizzle away for me where I'm still proud. I'm still, it's basically he's the MVP of the coaches this year. And that's great. And that's something that's going to go on his permanent record, on our permanent record. We have a coach of the year. I think maybe 3 times in the Knicks history, they've had coaches of the year, something like that, where it hasn't been a lot. And it's just, you know what? Like, I'm happy. It's a great moment. It's a great moment that they got rid of the streaks. They're in the playoffs. They broke all the streaks. So they haven't been in the playoffs since this year, so it's good. But at the same time, it's just like, all right, you know what I mean? But that doesn't take away from the fact of how excited I am for the future of this team. That doesn't take away from the fact of how great this team performed this season. That doesn't take away from the fact of how great of a job he did this year. It is possible to think multiple things at once. It is possible to think that Thibs winning coach of the year was a great accomplishment while also being like, all right, but you just got stomped out by the Hawks in the first round, while also thinking that what a great, tremendous regular season, while also thinking there's a great future ahead of us, while also thinking they should have done more last offseason. So take it away from there. I mean, you kind of got me, and you saw what I was doing on Twitter, at Knicks Central, where I'm at, and you saw I responded to a tweet about the Nets, and you said it's possible to think multiple things about the Ford.
Yeah, this guy at Ben Steiner wrote the D'Angelo. There's a highlight clips. The D'Angelo Brooklyn Nets were so damn fun. And then you wrote they were 42-40. I'm sure Nets fans would prefer what they have now. And I wrote both can be true, Alex.
I know you got me. I was like, well played. I have nothing to say. When you got me, you got me. That's it. See, you're getting too good at Twitter, bro. You're like you're kind of catching me. It's not good. We got to switch.
I'm not catching you. That crazy. I'm nowhere near you, but I will say you've rubbed off on me, and I've learned how to play the Twitter game better. And I'll reveal a little secret. Can I give a secret? Can I go behind the scenes? If you don't like this, I can edit it out of the podcast.
I don't know. I don't know where you're going.
There's been times where you come up with net lines, text them to me, and say, tweet this.
Yeah, I mean,
is that okay to say? Can I say that?
Okay.
Can I reveal that on Bad Weather Fans?
I'll be your what do they call it? Your ghostwriter. That's your ghostwriter. They call it in hip hop. And Otter Snottaynose, he doesn't have a ghostwriter, but he can ghostwrite for other people. Like I wrote for your tweet. It was only once, I think I did that.
You've done it a few times. So Knicks fans, if you look at my tweet and you go, this guy's getting on my nerves, he wrote it. Even though that's the tweet I'm referencing was about the Celtics after they, Danny Ainge and all of that.
Yeah, it's not about the Knicks. I would never write something for you to trash the Knicks. No, it was about the Celtics. Yes, for sure. But anyway, did the Mets win or they got crushed?
They were down 9-2 to the Orioles.
Yeah. Did you see that play with Mountcastle trying to beat out the double play? Like that was insane. He was out by like a half a step, and Gary Cohen had this like epic rant about replay. And as he's having this rant, they call him safe, and he's like, "You did all of this, and you still got the call wrong." It's classic. If you haven't seen it yet, you got to check it out. It is ridiculous. I mean, in the Mets getting Peterson turning into a pumpkin, and at least Alonso hit a homer early, and it's just whatever. I'm just trying to like get away from your point of calling me your ghostwriter on Twitter.
Hey man, that's what it is. Every tweet I send out, Alex sends to me. Mets had a good road trip where they went 4-3. They got the last 2 games versus the San Diego Padres, and that was key for them. Obviously, with all the injuries that have been going on, and Jacob deGrom is much watch action. He has been tremendous with the ER. What is it? 0.61 ERA. I mean, it's just, 6-1, yeah. It's just fucking ridiculous. It's unbelievable. Yeah. He's a blast to watch. He's fun. He does everything perfectly. The guy doesn't screw up. He's getting better as he goes along. And you're watching greatness. I mean, we're truly living in greatness. And I gotta pinch myself right now because, Alex, my sports teams are good. It's weird.
It is weird.
I mean, the Giants got better. They went to 6-10. I predict they did get better, and they made some big offseason moves. So we'll see if they improved. And Karl Malone, the Clipper game. They got the Clipper Jazz game. I got distracted by the mailman. I was like, it's Karl Malone. So the Giants got better. The Mets are in first place right now, very early, and then the Nets are doing what they're doing.
Yeah. You remind me of Joe Beningo. Listen to Joe what happened back in the day. He'd be like, oh my God, look at the Spanish channel, like the girls on the. It was anyway. So
I have stories. Well, not nothing. I have stories when I was an intern. I'll say this story. When I was an intern at WFAN, they would always put on the Telemundo, and everybody there would just go crazy for Telemundo. It would be like, did you get the Mets? Did you get the Alfonso highlight? It's like, no, I'm watching Telemundo. Did you get the Piazza home run? No, I'm watching Telemundo.
I need to know the weather in Spanish.
I'll never forget that moment there. And that was at Astoria. Yeah, I'll never.
Yeah.
This wasn't like this
As
was just like
as a
no
fan
name
just
people
listening, I
behind the
knew it.
scenes that nobody, is going to know about.
Yeah.
But it was just funny. Telemundo,
No, that-
always on at WFAN. It was like
Always.
thing there.
I knew that, and I never, I didn't go there back then.
Was that just talked about on the air all the time?
all the time. We all I listen to Joe and Evan like religiously. It got me through my work days. I would like plan out my work of the day, like the boring stuff I had to do for 10 o'clock when Joe and Evan came on. So, but once they moved to like 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, it kind of ruined my daily flow of work. Like I don't know when to do my stuff. You know what I mean? I get in at 9, do my quick thing, grab coffee. No, I can't. So it's just kind of like, it kind of screwed up my day. Like, thanks a lot, Evan, for progressing your career. It really pissed me off. But anyway, so
can I just say one more thing? Because you said this,
okay,
and it reigns so true. Because I worked in sports radio for so long, I hated listening back to sports radio. It felt like tedious, like I was doing like more work again, and I would like get a little over because I knew everything, and I don't mean that in like this cocky sense, but as you're a sports radio producer, your job is to know everything that's going on in the news, follow the cycle, etc. So I'd be like, you're in this story again. Oh my bleeping God. But now that I'm doing work that's more on a podcast side of things, and I'm doing a lot of like work. I don't know. It's like work, like a computer and writing and etc. And I can have background noise on in a sense. I love having sports radio on in the background as I do work now, and I'm appreciating it more than I ever have because I hated it when I was in it, and now that I'm out of it, I love putting the fan on during my day or a podcast, whatever it is. It's so great, and I always, when you said that, I was like, I don't know what I was talking about.
No, and I feel you.
But now I love it. I love it. I wanted to tell you that.
Yeah, no, I feel you because back in the day after I finished Connecticut School of Broadcasting back in the day, I interned at Sirius Satellite Radio for NFL radio and like the sports newsroom or NBA stuff and whatever. I was cutting up audio and things like that. They would have ESPN and all these stations on in the newsroom all day long. So I'm watching the same stories all day long, even with no sound, some with sound, some without sound. That by the time I got home, I'm like, I don't want to watch this crap. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I know I put on a sports show. Like back then it was before like Twitter. So back then I would put on like NFL Live or NFL Tonight or whatever it was and put it on. And I know every story they're about to tell me. It's just, why am I watching this right now?
I know that Brett Favre watch. I've watched it for the last 72 fucking hours. I understand the story. Okay. I'm going to go put on a Friends rerun and leave me alone. Yeah, I get
it. Let me know when it's kickoff. I'll be there for the new stuff.
So I wanted to mention that to you.
No, that's good. That's a good story. Good story. So you want to do the poll question now?
Let's go for it.
So Knicks fans, with the way the season ended, being embarrassed and punked on their home floor, are you still excited that Thibs won Coach of the Year? Yes, no, or not excited but proud? What do you think won?
A.
Yes. A won 66.8%. We got, close to 1,000 votes. 66.8%. Not excited but proud, 29.1%. And then no, 4.1%.
Where would you land? C?
Not excited but proud. Because I definitely am proud that he won, but it's also like, it's kind of bittersweet. Like, it's kind of like, I think I made this reference last week for whatever it was, where it's kind of like eating something good or drinking something good right after you brush your teeth, where it's just like, this tastes good, but it could be better if I didn't just do this.
Right. So you're saying the Knicks are halitosis.
They are. And
Me,
some of the fans are my cavities right now. So, all right. So we have a couple shout outs. We got Mike Nelson. He's at MDNELLIE. He goes, I feel like a broken record. In October, if we were promised the 4 seed, the most improved player and coach of the year, we all would have been excited as hell. We expected none of those things. Okay, but we're here now, and we were the 4 seed, and we got smacked in the first round. So that is what it is. Your perception changes as the season goes along. Okay, thank you. Next, Tanoe Brown. He's at TANOE_Brown. To be honest, I feel melancholy about the whole thing. With what he had to work with and the expectations versus the results, he succeeded. The question that remains though is what has he learned? Is he willing to use more of his bench? Adaptable to scoring in transition? We shall see. So that's an interesting one. Then we have that's a really good one actually. I like that one. And then RJ Felton, he's at RJ Felton 1. Coach did a great job. It was hard to watch a team wilt in the playoffs. Rose shouldn't go 30 plus minutes. Point guard and outside shooters in where the game is at is where the game is at. Trades and draft accordingly in the future. So that's a good point. We have your boy Boodalicious at Boodalicious. He goes, anytime your coach does something that has only been done 3 times in franchise history, his first season as a head coach, you're proud of him and get excited. That said, the Atlanta series sucked. At least the Hawks pounded Philly in game 1 to emphasize their legitimacy. Well, Boodalicious, you might not think the same way since Philly took game 2, and they're probably going to win this series in 5. So then we have your boy, Mike. This is your boy, JN Knickknacks at JSki193. He goes, I am both proud and excited he won. So we lose in 5 in the first round. Does that negate the fact that he led the team that was supposed to be in the playoffs, let alone with a win prediction of 18 to 20 games? Hell to F no. Monty, Quinn, Nash were all set up to win. Tibbs wasn't. Okay, but that does not mean I'm not proud. It does not mean I'm not excited about the future. It does not mean that the regular season wasn't a good job. It just takes it down from here up here, which is above my head where my hand is, to about here, whereas like where my chest is. It's not on the ground. It's not like nothing. It just, I'm not like, oh my God, he won Coach of the Year, like when Julius Randle became All-Star. Okay, that's it. We have Ken T. He's at Ken Tavares. He goes, Atlanta was the better team. Plus, we were without our starting center, and our backup was hobbled. I would like to see if Ken T thought Atlanta was the better team going into the series. If we could, go through his tweets. But I don't know. Who knows? But everybody now is the expert after the fact. We weren't going to be that good anyway. Even though Knicks fans are saying, "Oh, we're going to win this in 5 or 6 games." Some were saying sweep, and now all of a sudden, they were the better team. Okay, yeah. Well, then maybe should have done something more in the offseason. Okay.
We're missing one of their young 2 guards in Cam Reddish also. So
right. Well, the Knicks are missing Mitch Robinson, but it's okay.
No, I'm just saying that it wasn't the Hawks did have an injury.
They did. So it kind of evened out. Both of them had a good injury.
I'm gonna always have to find a counterpoint. So
yes, you do. Then we have my boy Mr. Freshbeard at Tron7480. Hell no, it feels fraudulent. Like the winning of the Coach of the Year feels fraudulent. How many more you want? I got 4 more tags.
You're the boss.
Okay, so let's do this quick. So we have Nick Stylen. He's at Nick Stylen, or she. Tibbs winning Coach of the Year is a huge win for the Knicks and will help attract players in free agency. Stop begging for free agents and stop thinking players care about Coach of the Year awards. They don't give a damn. If they want to come to you, they will come to you. Anyway, Jacob M. He's at Mishkin Chai. The Knicks weren't embarrassed. For punked embarrassed, please see last night's Bucks game. I mean, 2 things can be
all
punked embarrassed. Yeah, I don't understand this Twitter thing of one thing is this, then it can't be this too. It just has to be this. It's just like, come on, man. Like, get it together here, guys.
It is crazy to think the Nets at one point in a playoff game in a 2-3 matchup were up 49.
It's wild.
49.
Wild.
I mean,
absolutely wild.
Craziness. How good is Mike James? My God. Yep.
Last one, Jethead. He's at Jets Jam, or she. Can you stop moaning about how the Knicks were embarrassed and just appreciate the season? Put embarrassed in quotations, like they weren't embarrassed. Your expectations must have been way off. We lost to a superior team and had no business hosting a playoff series anyway. Just enjoy how far we made it. Sheesh. Mike, the loser mentality of some of these fans is really getting under my skin. You know what I mean? It's just like, I'm not okay with the way they went out. If they would have lost in 6 or 7 games and the games were close or most of them were close and they lost and they just like didn't have it and they lost the series, fine. But they lost 3 games in a row in blowouts. And Capella said, I'm going to kick your ass and I'm going to send you on vacation on your home floor at the Garden. And they came out and he did that. And I'm supposed to be like, yeah, great season, guys. Great job. Coach of the Year. Yay, we did it. We weren't supposed to be here anymore. Good job, fellas. Give me a break, dude. Like,
it's funny when a team punches you in the face like that, and he just says, "I'm going to come after you." Yeah, to not show fight afterwards, that would annoy me. That would get on my nerves. Like, Clint Capella.
Show fight on the court, not at halftime when you're almost
right. Everybody's always making these comparisons. Oh, I love this Knicks team because it reminded me of the '90s Knicks. Could you imagine if Rick Smits made that comment and then they went out on the court? It would be Rick Smits, probably great guy. But I'm saying if someone
Duncan Dutchman, yes,
and made those kind of comments, you think the '90s Knicks would have tolerated that bullshit? and would have had that. I'm
No.
not saying they would have won games, but trust me, it would have been a different story in the Garden with those 90s Knicks if somebody went and said that in the first round versus them. If it was Brad Daugherty made those comments, whatever.
Right,
I'm just trying to use centers that were good in the 90s, whatever. Like,
Derek Coleman said it.
Right. Did you think that they would have been like, no, they would have sent a message, not only just, like with physicality, but they would have come out there and given effort and energy and not allowed that to happen. No way.
Right. No chance. It would have at least been down to the wire. They might not have won, but it would have been. They wouldn't have been punked and blown out. Where it's like they would, because the Knicks had so many guys. I talked about this last episode. So many guys like Anthony Bonner, J.R. Reed, Greg Anthony, all these guys that are just on the bench, just like goons that could come in and hit somebody, just shove their chest at them and send somebody flying. Chris Childs. You know what I mean? Things like that, like guys like that weren't great players or even very good, but they will come in there and they were intimidating as hell. And I know it's a different league now. I know it's completely different. You can't just knock someone down to send a message. There's flagrants. There's flagrant 2 fouls. You can't do it anymore. And if you fight, you look like you're the worst person in the world. Meanwhile, in hockey, you're allowed to stop the game to fight, but that's a different conversation altogether. But anyway, so it's just, I just don't understand why people are okay with this. Like, why are we okay with this? Why are we like, well, you know what? It's okay. Like, yes, it's okay. Yes, it's not the end of the world. Yes, the future is bright, but can we have a little passion here? Can we be a little upset? Am I allowed to be angry? Am I allowed to be upset? Am I allowed to have this take it down a notch? I feel like whenever I put out a tweet that's not with the positivity of things are on the up and up, people like attack me on Twitter. It's like crazy. I know I could be a bit of a jerk, but like sometimes I even put a preference out there for the tweet I wrote that you were referencing. I was like, I know people are going to be upset with me, but I don't really care. This is my opinion.
Right.
But maybe I should just say IMO and just like, I was talking to Danny B about this actually earlier today. We're like, maybe I should just say IMO and not be like this halfway, like, I don't give a damn if you don't like what I have to say.
I love the IMO thing because it's like, well, I get obviously. I mean, come on, right? In my opinion, no, this is fact.
It's like I said, with all due respect. I mean, like for Talladega Nights.
Right. Whenever you say with all due respect, you're showing no respect.
You can say whatever you want. You can say whatever you want.
It's like, hey, I just want to say this about this guy. In all due respect, it's like, no, I'm about to trash you, but I'm going to start with in all due respect, so it lightens the blow a little bit. The blow. I want to get to the jersey numbers, but I do want to bring up this one thing about when the series starts and everything like that. Like, okay. A series doesn't start until the road team wins. So is the Nets-Bucks series not started?
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. And what about the Clippers-Mavs series where the away team won every game until Game 7? So it was kind of the reverse. So the series didn't start.
What the hell happens there?
The home team. I don't know, man. It's over. It's just
and if a series doesn't start until a road team wins, if the home team wins every game, did the series ever start? And how did the team advance?
It ended. It just ended. It didn't start. It just ended.
It's the first of 4. You take advantage when you're home. It's the first of 4. The series starts when the ball is tipped, okay? That's when the series starts. James Harden got hurt. The series started, okay? It's the first of 4. Take advantage of your home games. Get to 4. That's what matters. The series starts when the game starts, for the love of God.
Anyway, all right, jersey number trivia. So let me pull up your numbers.
I got one.
So every episode we do jersey number trivia based on the episode number. We're in the 60s now. We're at 67, and I know that's Taj Gibson, so you're not going to get me on that one. So the Knicks, we actually had a number this episode. We were doing 22. We had to guess the 22 on each team, but now we're in the 60s. We're at 67. It's obviously Taj Gibson because he's on the team. I should have asked Mike that question since he probably
I would have known that one because I've watched a lot of Knicks.
Yeah, and it's an odd number. It's not like, it's 44
stands out
or something. Yeah. So you want to give me a Knicks first, and then I'll give you a Nets?
I'll give you a Knicks first. And if I gave you this one, I apologize. And I wanted to make it a little easier than I've been in the past, although you've done well. All right, so I'm going with number 51 for the New York Knicks.
Buck Williams.
I don't think he was 51 on the Knicks.
I thought he was.
Well, not according to basketball-reference.com.
55, maybe. Maybe it was 55. I know he's in the 50s. So 51. Felton Spencer?
So he played for the Knicks from 2003 to 2004. That was the only year that he was on the Knicks. He is a center in the NBA. I would say he probably had his best years. Well, none of them were too great.
No best years. Michael
Orlando
Doliak.
early. Was that?
Doliak?
Yeah.
Or
My next clue was he was a teammate of Keith Van Horn at Utah
was
in
he?
college.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. Oh, that's right. Actually, I didn't
But
know
you
that.
got it.
I remember that. Yeah, I did. See, I can get. I got it. My numbers are good. You're not giving me these obscure guys anymore. Like I should have known Moochie Norris. You got me with Moochie Norris last time. I was really mad about that one because that's like my go-to random Nick.
Can you name
Anyways.
what team Doliak won a title with?
Ooh,
They've been mentioned on this pod. Yes, the Heat, the 06 Heat.
see, man.
Well, that was a different Heat, not the LeBron Heat team, so that's not true. But
that
yeah,
was the
06
Shaq
Wade
Heat,
one.
right? Yeah. Well, Wade was on both, but I know what you mean.
Like that was
The
Wade's,
primary Wade one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Wade when Wade became a superstar.
right. Oh, here we go. Number 00.
Benoit
for the
Benjamin.
Nets. No, he played. Well, yes, but that's not what I'm. He played for the Nets from 99, 2000, and 2000, 2001. He started 51 games in 2000, 2001.
I like my Benoit Benjamin.
Dolan J. Trump is yelling at the podcast
He's
right
so
now. He
good
knows
at
the
this.
accent.
You know what? He's in my
So good
head
at
a
this
little
game.
bit now. He's probably texting me before he's even listened to the episode. He knows the answer.
He just knows already.
He's
Yeah, 2
memorized
years.
all of them. All right, 90. Okay, so
Started 51 games, so you should probably get this one. He had a very short career though, only 4 years. Maybe he went overseas.
to be a
but I don't
center
know.
at 00, right?
Yes, he's a center.
Any other clues?
Second round pick in 99. I know
Can
you're
I
a
get
draft
the
guy.
college?
Northwestern. So random. Say
Northwestern. Is it Evan Eschmeyer?
it is Evan Eschmeyer. Well done. Good
The
job.
college thing really helps me.
You're good with that. The colleges and the draft stuff. You nail that stuff.
Can I tell you
I'm
why
not-
I think it is?
I think you told me, but you can tell it anyway. You told me this why.
Because
Yeah,
when we
why?
had net
This why,
season,
but yes.
we had, I want to tell you. When we had net season tickets, you would get the play bill. And this is before the internet and cell phones and
Those
everything.
little booklets. Yeah,
Those
they used to
little
come out of
booklets.
Jets games. Yeah.
So I would take them and I would read. And
Mhm.
like I had nothing to do, and you would sit there and I would read where these guys went to college. And I think by doing that day after day for 5-6 years, I
Yeah.
think you just learned where guys went to school, and that helped. I think if you did
Right.
more current NBA players now, I'd struggle more to know where they went to school. But if you brought up Evan Eschmeyer, like that,
Plus now people don't really go to school. They go for a year, and it's not really like Kyrie. Do you think of him as a Duke guy? I mean, he was
barely
hurt and played 1 year. He barely played, but it's kind of like that with me with the Jets, where like going to all the games, and they would hand out those little booklets with the numerical roster. So it's like you're watching the game, you're like, what number is that? So there was a point where from like, let's say like the mid to late 90s through like the late 2000s, I knew every number. You say number, I was like bang, 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 Jets, like easy because I'm at every game, and we get there early. We sit and watch the kickoff, like them practice and like the whatever, look around, and then people come out on the field. When you're at a game, especially a football game, you see things you don't see on TV. Because the cameras are so focused on one thing.
right,
You see
it's totally
everything.
different viewpoint.
People on the bench and this, it's just a different world going to a football game than it is watching it, as opposed to other sports where you see pretty much everything you need to see when you're watching a baseball game or a basketball game on TV. But anyway, so I can relate to that. So
Yes.
That's pretty cool. Good story. Sorry, it was a little long of a rant. That wasn't like important to the podcast.
No,
but anyway,
hey, Evan Eschmeyer history is a big deal. And
right.
Evan Esch. They used to, I think, like the and Dolan
Why
can
did he-
correct me. Evan Esch,
Yeah.
I think they used to say. I don't know.
Why did he only play 4 years? I mean, he played
I don't remember
2 more
that.
years.
That
Let's
I
see.
couldn't tell
Well,
you.
There's a wild picture of him. Dallas. It looks like he's like my cousin. My cousin.
Did he play at
something about
Dallas
Mary? When he has
after?
the hair up. Played
Oh.
for Dallas for 2 years. Yeah.
Was
that
he?
would happen.
I feel like okay. Dallas.
Had 4 knee surgeries in 5 years. Doctor
that's
told him
why.
to retire or run the risk of a very limited mobility when he had children.
Okay.
Okay. Well, yeah. Good.
Things you
That's
didn't
it.
know. Evan Eschmeyer's,
See,
history.
that's the kind
That
of
makes
stuff you learn about on Bad Weather Fans. The
Right.
most random stuff. Michael Doliak trivia and Evan Eschmeyer trivia. You guys are all ready to go for NBA trivia night at the bars that are opening. It's very exciting.
Yes,
Everybody's very
sir.
excited.
All right, episode 67, Bad Weather Fans. Nets 2-0 series lead. Their game 3 is against the Milwaukee Bucks on Thursday night in Milwaukee. Then they got game 4 Sunday in Milwaukee as well. Next time we do this podcast, we'll have more clarity on the Nets series, where that one stands, and then this Knicks off season as it begins, and we get into full discussion about the Knicks, their off season, and their draft plans, and the Nets. Keeping an eye on this championship title run, and you'll get to live through it with me, and nice eye roll. Then next time we do this podcast, who the hell knows? Seriously, Alex, shit changes fast, and I am trying to. I mean this stuff changes fast.
Right.
One game, the whole narrative. It can
Bucks
change.
won by 20 in game 4 and game 3. I mean, it's
over.
Series.
So you can't take anything for granted. Enjoy that the Nets are up 2-0, but you got to remember that this series is long from over. But anyway, episode 67, Bad Weather fans. Alex,
shout out to Snottaynose again, August 29th. Right. Opening for Rakim and Capadonna at the Klein Memorial Theater. Get your tickets August 29th. Shout out to Kennedy, man. That's my guy. And Bobby and Peary, who listen, and all my Silver Point people from back in the day. So anyway, and Mark, by the way. All right, good.
And my
That's
dad.
the end of the podcast. And your dad. I know you hate when I do shout outs, but it's okay.
I don't care.
You know.
Let's go.
Let's go Mets.
Bad Weather fans, episode 67. Thank you, guys. See y'all later.
All right, bye.